Today, I will take you through a horrifying case, a story that listeners will certainly never forget. A young doctor, afraid of having his affair exposed, committed an unimaginably brutal act. He killed his lover and dismembered her body into small pieces to conceal his crime. This story will take us into the darkest depths of the human soul. On the morning of March 12th, the Wuhan City Police received a report from a local resident living near the Western City landfill. The person had discovered several black plastic bags, the foul odor emanating from them. Suspecting something was wrong. When the authorities arrived at the scene, they found that the bags contained dismembered human body parts. Through the identification process, the police determined that the victim was Li Shu, a young woman in her early 20s who worked at a private clinic in the city. She had been missing for 3 days, and her family had reported her disappearance, but there were no leads. Li Shu was known to be a kind person without any conflicts with anyone, which made the case even more complicated. The investigative team began focusing on Li Shu's personal relationships, and the name Zhang Wei quickly came up. Zhang Wei was a young doctor working at the same clinic as Li Shu. He had a calm demeanor and was always attentive to patients and colleagues. However, what few knew was that Zhang Wei was married and was having an affair with Li Shu. The police found crucial evidence when reviewing the clinic's security cameras. In the footage on the night Li Shu went missing, Zhang Wei was the last person to leave the clinic with her. Images of Zhang Wei and Li Shu getting into a car together made it impossible for the police to dismiss the suspicion. During the interrogation, Zhang Wei initially denied all involvement, asserting that after leaving the clinic, he had taken Li Shu home and knew nothing further. However, his nervous demeanor and inconsistencies in his statements led the police to decide to closely monitor him. After several days of surveillance, the police noticed Zhang Wei exhibiting suspicious behavior. He tried to dispose of some personal items and frequently visited the Western landfill. This led the police to conduct a search of Zhang Wei's house. There, they found traces of blood on the floor and medical tools that appeared to have been used for dismemberment. The journey of Zhang Wei's crime began late one night, when the clinic was deserted and only he and Li Shu were left. After a heated argument about the relationship, in a fit of anger and loss of control, Zhang Wei strangled Li Shu until she stopped breathing. After committing the crime, Zhang Wei fell into a state of panic, but the fear of his affair being exposed forced him to think of ways to dispose of the body. Zhang Wei decided to drag Li Shu's body into an operating room without surveillance cameras. He donned protective clothing and gloves, then began using the available medical tools, such as scalpels and bone saws, to dismember the victim. He was well versed in human anatomy, and each action was performed coldly and precisely. Zhang Wei dismembered Li Shu into smaller parts to make it easier to dispose of. This process took many hours. Zhang Wei carefully placed each part of the body into black plastic bags, sealing them tightly to prevent any odor. After that, he meticulously cleaned the operating room, attempting to remove all traces of blood and tissue. However, a few bloodstains had seeped into the floor cracks that Zhang Wei did not notice, and these would later become evidence against him. As dawn approached, Zhang Wei drove the bags to the Western landfill. He chose this location because it was rarely frequented, allowing him to easily dump the bags into large piles of trash without drawing attention. After disposing of the body, Zhang Wei returned home, trying to act as if nothing had happened. However, his mind was haunted by what he had done, leading to sleepless nights and increasingly erratic behavior. In the following days, the police closely monitored Zhang Wei's every move. They noticed that he often visited the Western landfill, seemingly to check on the situation. He also attempted to destroy some of Li Shu's personal belongings that he still had, such as her phone and some jewelry. These actions further convinced the police that Zhang Wei was directly connected to the case. The decision to search Zhang Wei's home was made when the police had sufficient grounds for suspicion. During the search, they found small bloodstains left on the floor. The medical tools in his room also showed signs of being used for dismemberment. Some blood and tissue remnants were still on the scalpel and bone saw. Even though Zhang Wei tried to clean them thoroughly, he could not completely erase all traces. During the investigation, the police continued gathering more evidence from Zhang Wei's workplace. Several employees at the clinic reported that Zhang Wei had shown unusual signs of stress recently. He often seemed distracted and had even missed some patient appointments. This only increased the suspicion surrounding him. A janitor at the clinic also provided the police with an important piece of information. On the night of the incident, he recalled a strange odor coming from the operating room as he walked by. Although he did not dare to check inside, the unpleasant smell left him with a lasting sense of unease. The police collected this testimony to add to the case file, helping to build a complete picture of the crime. Meanwhile, Zhang Wei began to panic more with each interrogation. He tried every means to protect himself, but the inconsistencies in his statements grew more and more apparent. Particularly, his inability to provide concrete proof of his whereabouts after leaving the clinic with Li Shu put him in a difficult position. The police also employed psychological tactics, repeatedly questioning and pressuring Zhang Wei until he began to show signs of cracking. Finally, after numerous tense interrogations, Zhang Wei could no longer endure. He began to admit his actions, but the story he told only made everyone shudder at the brutality and inhumanity involved. Zhang Wei confessed that after strangling Li Shu, he panicked but immediately thought of how to cover up his crime. He decided to use his medical knowledge to dismember Li Shu, believing that this would make it difficult for the police to identify the victim. Throughout the entire process, Zhang Wei felt no remorse or guilt. He only focused on how not to get caught. He even planned in detail how to divide the body and dispose of it in different locations, but ultimately chose the simplest way, which was to take everything to the Western landfill. Zhang Wei also admitted that during the dismemberment, he completely lost track of time. Everything happened in an almost unconscious state, and he only knew that he had to work as quickly as possible before dawn. The dismemberment took longer than anticipated, and by dawn, he was still in the process of cleaning the operating room. The time pressure prevented him from thoroughly cleaning everything as planned, and the remaining bloodstains became crucial evidence for the police. After disposing of the body, Zhang Wei tried to return to his normal life, but the constant fear of being discovered kept him on edge. He frequently visited the landfill to see if anyone had found the black plastic bags. He also attempted to destroy all items related to Li Shu, including her phone and other personal belongings. However, these actions only provided the police with further grounds for suspicion. During the search of Zhang Wei's home, the police found other significant evidence. A notebook containing detailed information about his relationship with Li Shu, along with the plans he had written to cover up the crime. The haphazard, tense writing on the pages revealed his panic and determination to evade capture. Finally, faced with irrefutable evidence, Zhang Wei had to bow his head and confess. He admitted that out of fear of his wife finding out about the affair, after an argument with Li Shu, he lost control and killed her. To cover up his crime, Zhang Wei decided to dismember the victim and take her remains to the landfill to dispose of them. Zhang Wei admitted that he had meticulously planned every step after the crime, from dismemberment to disposal, but he never imagined that the small bloodstains left behind and his suspicious behavior would lead to his downfall. The case ended with Zhang Wei receiving a life sentence, but the horror he caused still haunts not only the victim's family, but also the community. Once again, selfishness and fear turned someone who was once seen as a symbol of care and help into a brutal murderer. The story of the young doctor who killed his lover in a cruel manner out of fear of exposure serves as a reminder that behind a gentle facade sometimes lie unfathomable dark corners.